This is the greatest movie of the 21st century because no matter how many years have passed, it still hurts in the hearts of all movie fans. This movie is set in the 38th parallel of North Korea 24 years ago. In 1953, a ceasefire agreement was signed in the Korean War. From that moment on, the demarcation line of Panmunjom was like a sharp knife, dividing the entire Korean peninsula into two. Since then, it has become the most tense and mysterious borderline in the world. The soldiers of the two countries responsible for guarding the border are also in the two camps. They are of the same origin, but now their mission is to prevent the other party from crossing the border. The hat of an American female tourist was accidentally blown away by the wind. The hat with the South Korean flag fell on the land of North Korea without bias, and no one dared to cross the border. At this time, a North Korean soldier picked up the hat, brushed off the dust on the hat, and returned it to the other party with a smile. The unusual behavior of the North Korean soldiers also attracted the attention of the reporters present to take photos. The reporters' behavior was quickly stopped by the South Korean soldiers. For both countries, this behavior was undoubtedly a taboo. But what everyone did not expect was that this taboo was just the beginning. In a training exercise not long after, the South Korean soldiers mistakenly entered the territory of North Korea because they were lost. Once this behavior was discovered by North Korea, it would undoubtedly immediately trigger a war. Just when the captain decided to lead everyone to evacuate quietly, he left Sergeant Soo Hyok, who was using the toilet, in the same place. When Soo Hyok noticed it, there was only a reed marsh with no traces of people in front of him and a landmine that he had stepped on at some point. He originally planned to contact his superiors using the radio, but the other side of the radio did not respond. Just when Soo Hyok was at a loss, a strange sound came from the reed marsh at this time. Soo Hyok, sensing the approach of danger, immediately raised his gun. It turned out to be a puppy approaching. But before Soo Hyok could calm down, a North Korean soldier appeared in front of him. Just as the two looked at each other, Soo Hyok was the first to raise his gun and seize the initiative. Unexpectedly, another North Korean soldier appeared behind him and quickly unloaded Soo Hyok's gun. Soo Hyok told them that he had stepped on a landmine. Soo Hyok was ready to die, so he threatened the two that if they dared to move again, he would detonate the landmine. The two North Korean soldiers who heard this immediately walked away without looking back. Soo Hyok shouted loudly, "I told you not to get close. I didn't tell you to leave." Seeing Soo Hyok's tears almost bursting out of his eyes, the two couldn't help but feel sympathy. But then an unexpected scene happened. The tall soldier actually helped Soo Hyok dismantle the mine himself and gave the fuse of the mine to Soo Hyok as a souvenir. Before leaving, Sergeant Kyeon-pil whistled a slightly playful whistle at Soo Hyok meaningfully. From that moment on, the two North Korean soldiers of different heights left an indelible mark in Soo Hyok's heart. After that, Soo Hyok never saw those two people again. It was not until the heavy snow closed the mountain that year and they went out hunting again that they met North Korean soldiers again. But when everyone was ready, the captains on both sides walked forward. Not only did they put down their guns, but they also took out their cigarettes. The scene was not as tense as imagined. The tall soldier was also in the team, and he recognized Soo Hyok, who was saved by him that day at a glance. From that day on, Soo Hyok always wanted to express his gratitude to the other party. So on the night of the guard, he threw a thank you letter and a pack of cigarettes to the other side of the border. Soo Hyok didn't expect that the other party would reply quickly. Under the witness of the bright moon, they threw the letter to each other again and again. The letter invited Soo Hyok to cross the border and go to their post at 3 a.m. That night, with an uneasy mood, Soo Hyok trembled and opened the door of the enemy post. They were all shocked. But after seeing the letter, they found out that it was the new recruit Woo Jin who was joking and invited Soo Hyok to come here for a gathering. Unexpectedly, the brave Soo Hyok actually came over. Seeing that the other party was not inviting him sincerely, Soo Hyok was a little disappointed and planned to leave. This also made the anxious Woo Jin grab Soo Hyok. That night they hid in the basement and clinked their glasses to represent the gathering of compatriots. Through face-to-face communication, Soo Hyok found that North Korean soldiers were not as cold-blooded as their superiors said. On the contrary, they were flesh and blood people like himself. Especially after drinking, everyone showed a similar boastful attitude. Soo Hyok said that he was a famous quick shooter in the South, and then he took out a gun and pointed it directly at Woo Jin. Then, Soo Hyok pointed the gun at Kyeong-pil again, but Kyeong-pil, who had experienced many battles, didn't even blink. Kyeong-pil's powerful momentum also made Soo Hyok shudder. Kyeong-pil told Soo Hyok that speed is not the most important thing in actual combat, and staying calm is the key to survival. Unfortunately, Soo Hyok did not listen to these words, and he just asked sarcastically, "Why is such an excellent talent like Kyeong-pil now just an ordinary soldier like him?" Kyeong-pil just smiled indifferently when he heard this. The night party was held every night, and even when they were on guard, the atmosphere was no longer as tense as before. Although the two could not recognize each other, Soo Hyok still spit on the other side. And the naughty Woo Jin also responded with saliva. On the borderline known as the coldest in the world, the two had to add a different color to the world that originally only existed in black and white in such a seemingly naive way. Knowing that life in North Korea was not easy, Soo Hyok gave his lighter to Kyeong-pil. Seeing that he finally had a lighter that was not afraid of wind, Kyeong-pil was as happy as a child. Then, Soo Hyok gave Woo Jin a nice magazine. Soo Hyok looked at the two men with wide eyes, and the three men seemed to have found a common hobby in an instant. I thought that such a time would continue under the friendship of the three. But that night, the bullet fired from the North Korean border guard room completely broke everything. Soo Hyok was shot in the leg and fled back to South Korea frantically. The armies on both sides also quickly assembled because of the gunshots, and the fierce gunfight lasted all night. But Soo Hyok, who came back injured, became silent. In order to avoid further escalation of the situation, North and South Korea agreed that the neutral country Switzerland would send representatives to investigate the cause of the exchange of fire. Since then, the responsibility of finding out the truth of the incident fell on the shoulders of the outstanding Major Sophie. According to South Korea's statement, Soo Hyok was kidnapped by several North Korean soldiers when he was convenient that night. Soo Hyok escaped after breaking free from the ropes and killing 2 North Korean soldiers and injuring Kyeong-pil. But according to North Korea, it was Soo Hyok who suddenly broke into the border guard room and killed indiscriminately. Sophie's mission is to restore the truth of the incident when both sides insist on their own opinions. But what puzzles Sophie is that in the eyes of South Korea, Soo Hyok is obviously a hero who successfully fought back. But he did not show the joy that a hero should have. And North Korea's Kyeong-pil also chose to keep silent when facing Sophie. All kinds of performances make this accidental exchange of fire even more confusing. According to the bullet residue at the scene of the crime, Soo Hyok said that he fired 10 shots that night, but 11 bullets were found at the scene. And according to the gun number, Sophie accidentally discovered that the gun used by Soo Hyok that night was not his own. It was Sung-shik's gun who was on guard with him. They also extracted a blood sample from Woo Jin of North Korea from Sung-shik's gun. According to the evidence at the scene, Sung-shik should have been at the scene that night. But just when Sophie was about to ask for clarification, Sung-shik actually snatched the guard's pistol and planned to commit suicide. But when Sung-shik found that there was no bullet in the gun, he opened the window and chose to jump off the building. Although Sung-shik saved his life, Soo Hyok still vented his anger on Sophie, who was determined to dig out the truth. Sophie understood that they were trying to cover up the truth of that night with death. So that day, under the joint witness of the two parties, Sophie called Kyeong-pil and Soo Hyok together. She wanted to find some clues from the confrontation between the two confessions. In front of Kyeong-pil, Sophie deliberately showed the footage of Sung-shik committing suicide that day. However, when Sophie noticed that Kyeong-pil's Adam's apple rolled obviously when he swallowed, she was sure that Kyeong-pil was lying. As Sophie repeated the doubts about the night of the crime again and again, Soo Hyok's psychological defenses were completely broken and he burst into tears. Seeing that he was about to tell the truth about that night, Kyeong-pil kicked Soo Hyok over at this time. Kyeong-pil grabbed Soo Hyok angrily and kept insulting him. Due to Kyeong-pil's unstable mood, the investigation had to be stopped again. The head of the joint investigation team found Sophie that day. Because Sophie's investigation had led to a South Korean soldier committing suicide, the superiors decided to let someone else take over Sophie's work. Before leaving, Sophie found Soo Hyok for the last time. She took out a photo, which was a photo of Soo Hyok's girlfriend. But this photo appeared on the dead recruit Woo Jin. This also made Sophie conclude that the 4 soldiers had an unusual relationship. She took out 2 different investigation results. Sophie could hide the real results, but she just wanted to know the truth of that night. So far, the unknown second half has gradually surfaced. The secret party in the early morning has been going on happily. Soo-hyuk will be discharged from the army in a few months. Soo-hyuk thought that after he left, only Sung-shik would be left alone here. So that night, Soo-hyuk decided to introduce Sung-shik to the two North Korean friends. But in front of the 50-centimeter wide borderline, Sung-shik still hesitated. He was not sure whether the other party would accept him. At this time, Kyeong-pil took the initiative to extend a hand of friendship. Since then, the friendship group of the three has grown again. Sung-shik, who had little presence in normal times, gained everyone's recognition just because of a game in childhood. Under the care of his North Korean friends, he experienced unprecedented warmth and concern. When Sung-shik took out a photo of his girlfriend, everyone was even more envious and unbelievable. No one would believe that on every moonlit night, there was no hatred and prejudice, only hearty and unbridled laughter. But the gradual closeness of the relationship also made Sung-shik doubtful. Sung-shik asked Soo-hyuk. He often heard that North Korean soldiers lured South Korean soldiers to defect, and whether they were facing this situation now. Soo-hyuk firmly said that it was his savior, but the next second, he shot the bullet at the human-shaped target in North Korean military uniform. That night, Soo-hyuk gave Kyeong-pil a delicious mooncake. Then, he tentatively asked Kyeong-pil if he was willing to live in South Korea. Kyeong-pil, who didn't want to hear this, suddenly changed his face and spit out the delicious mooncake in his mouth. Kyeong-pil said firmly, "One day, North Korea will make the best candy on the Korean peninsula." But after saying these words, Kyeong-pil still put the mooncake in his hand into his mouth again. Soo-hyuk understood that their feelings could not tolerate politics, and the direction of the two countries was never something that they, the grassroots soldiers, could decide. Soon the horns sounded on the borderline, and South Korean soldiers gathered in large numbers on the borderline. When Soo-hyuk and his men arrived, they found that it was just an exercise held by North Korea to deter South Korea. The increasingly tense relationship also made Soo-hyuk realize that he could not go there again before he was discharged from the army. But Sung-shik said that Woo-jin's birthday was coming up in a few days, and Soo-hyuk was about to be discharged from the army, so everyone should at least say goodbye formally. So that night, they met again in the sentry post. Soo-hyuk asked Kyeong-pil if North Korea really wanted to attack them, but Kyeong-pil said that those were decisions made by the upper echelons, and they could only obey. But if one day the upper echelons really ordered an exchange of fire, would they also have to fight each other? This topic made everyone silent. Everyone still held a beautiful expectation, and they left their addresses to each other. Hopefully, one day when the motherland is unified, they can go to the other side to find each other. To commemorate this last meeting, they decided to take a photo. Since one person had to take the photo, it was impossible to get 4 people in the same frame no matter what. Sung-shik kept adjusting the angles that he was not satisfied with, just like their friendship, which could only survive in a political context. Time passed by, and the moment of separation was approaching. Before leaving, Sung-shik polished Woo-jin's shoes for the last time. Knowing that Woo-jin liked to paint, Sung-shik also gave Woo-jin a set of paintbrushes as a birthday gift for a few days. That was the first birthday gift Woo-jin received in his life. Woo-jin couldn't help but shed tears. But just as they were about to push the door to leave, the wooden door was opened by someone outside. A North Korean officer who was checking the post broke into the house. When everyone was stunned, the North Korean officer raised his gun first. At this time, Sung-shik was already scared, but Soo-hyuk raised his gun first, and the atmosphere in the room instantly dropped to the freezing point. Kyeong-pil wanted to step forward to explain, but seeing the cigarettes and alcohol on the table, the officer shot Kyeong-pil in the face. The North Korean officer also asked Woo-jin to disarm Soo-hyuk and the others immediately. Faced with the officer's order, Woo-jin had to raise his gun. Seeing this, Soo-hyuk suddenly doubted everything that had just happened. They were still very close just now, but this seemingly solid feeling suddenly changed in an instant. Soo-hyuk knew that he could not put down his gun today, because once he put down his gun, they would be regarded as intruders and shot. At this moment, the situation was at a critical moment, and everyone's fingers holding guns trembled slightly, and no one knew when the gunshot would suddenly sound. Kyeong-pil, the only calm one, covered the muzzles of the two people's guns with his own hands. With Kyeong-pil's constant comfort, the situation was changing for the better. At the moment when the two put away their guns, the sound of the recorder suddenly flipping made the North Korean officer subconsciously touch the walkie-talkie on his waist. It was Sung-shik who first shot the officer. Seeing the officer fall, the nervous Woo Jin also pulled out his pistol again. At the same time, Sung-shik also pointed the gun at Woo Jin, hitting him in the head with one shot and in the hand with another shot. Seeing Soo-hyuk fall, Sung-shik had completely lost his mind at this time. He fired 5 shots at Woo Jin's fallen body. Turning around, Sung-shik pointed the gun at Kyeon-pil again. It was not until he saw that Soo-hyuk was not dead that Sung-shik finally came to his senses. At this time, Kyeon-pil took Sung-shik's gun, shot the North Korean officer to death with one shot, and then swapped the 2 guns that had been wiped of fingerprints. Kyeon-pil calmly told them, "If you are asked by your superiors, just say that you were kidnapped and escaped." In order to face the next investigation, Kyeon-pil asked Soo-hyuk to shoot him before leaving. Sung-shik ran back to the police station immediately after leaving, and the 2 sides immediately started a gunfight. At this time, Sung-shik did not dare to recall what had just happened. The unforgettable friendship of the 4 people could only end in such a tragedy. No one really paid attention to the specific disputes between the 4 of them. The superiors were only concerned about a reasonable excuse that could both protect their own interests and shift the responsibility to others. Kyeon-pil frankly said that if the incident happened in South Korea, he would also be the first to shoot. Finally, Kyeon-pil handed the lighter given to him by Soo-hyuk to Sophie, representing that their friendship had come to an end. Now everything is clear, but there is one last point, where the confessions of both parties do not match. Sophie said she learned from Kyeon-pil's confession that it was Soo-hyuk, not Sung-shik, who shot Woo Jin. Just then, several sergeants came to pick up Soo-hyuk, and Sophie hugged Soo-hyuk and said that Kyeon-pil in North Korea had never blamed him. But just after going downstairs, Soo-hyuk suddenly snatched the guard's pistol. He knelt on the ground and repaid his dead brother with his life. The most regrettable thing is that the 4 people never left a photo in the same frame. However, what is less known is that they had realized this wish before the beginning of this relationship. The 4 people at that time are still standing vividly in front of us. Well, today's movie sharing ends here. Welcome everyone to like, comment, and forward thank you for your patience in watching. Looking forward to meeting you next time.